Most people are not going to win. Not because they aren't smart, not because they aren't capable, not because they weren't born with enough talent. Most people won't win because they have big dreams and zero standards. They talk about the future like it's magic. This is my year. This is my time. I feel it. But when you ask them how, there's silence. No plan, no structure, no daily discipline. Just vibes. And life doesn't reward vibes. Life rewards execution. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You don't get what you want in life. You get what you are willing to tolerate. You tolerate excuses, you get excuses. You tolerate mediocrity, you live average. You tolerate laziness, you stay stuck. The moment your life changes is the moment you decide, I'm no longer available for this. That's when standards rise. That's when everything shifts. Because the difference between winners and everyone else isn't talent. It's standards. Period. Everyone has a list of things they should do. I should work out. I should study more. I should stop wasting time. I should get serious. And then they don't do it. Then they beat themselves up. They feel guilty. They talk about how disappointed they are in themselves. But guilt doesn't change behavior. People don't change when they should. They change when it becomes a must. When missing a workout is no longer an option. When skipping the work feels unacceptable. When quitting is off the table. That's when humans transform. It's the same principle as burning the boats. No retreat, no backup plan, no maybe later. When something becomes non-negotiable, you figure it out. And here's the uncomfortable part. If you can't keep a promise to yourself for 5 days, you are not being unlucky, you are being undisciplined. We're not talking about 5 years. We're not talking about decades of sacrifice. We're talking about 5 days. If you can't do that, the results you're getting are exactly what you've earned. That's not hate. That's reality. Nobody's sabotaging you. Nobody's holding you back. Your habits are speaking louder than your goals. And the voice in your head, the one that negotiates, complains, delays, that voice is not your friend. If you can't tell that voice to sit down and shut up, every year will feel like almost successful, almost disciplined, almost there. Your life will always come down to your choices and your actions. Not January, not next Monday, not when you feel ready. Now. Right now. This moment is the only one that matters. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need permission. You don't need motivation. You need honesty. Ask yourself this question and don't lie. Am I actually doing my best? Most people say yes, and most people are wrong. Your current effort is building your future habits. How you do small things is how you do everything. If you don't care about the details now, you won't magically care later. If you can't give effort when no one's watching, you won't suddenly become great when it counts. Winners don't wait for ideal circumstances. They dominate where they are. They show up early. They stay late. They ask questions. They learn. They apply. Losers talk about how much they hate losing. Winners do something about it. Losers say they want to win. Winners live like it. Winning isn't an emotion, it's behavior. It's doing the work when it's boring, when it's repetitive, when nobody claps. That's the separator. Everyone wants the reward, few want the process. Everyone wants what disciplined people have, but they don't want to live the disciplined life. You don't get to skip the price. It matters what time you wake up. It matters how you eat. It matters how you train. It matters how you prepare. It matters what you think about all day. Success isn't random, it's manufactured. And here's another truth. Less than 1% of people are naturally extraordinary. That means for the rest of us, greatness is built through discipline, through discomfort, through repetition. Not because it feels good, but because it's necessary. Comfort is the real addiction. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they worship comfort. They believe the lie that if something doesn't come easily, it must not be meant for them. That's nonsense. Growth is uncomfortable by design. If you tell yourself the truth, that you could be better, that you could do more, discipline will find you. The best version of you is not the do whatever I want version. It's the disciplined version. The version with boundaries. The version that says no. The version that stays focused when others drift. That's power. Discipline doesn't limit you, it frees you. Every day is a battle for control, over your thoughts, over your emotions, over your habits. Your mind is a weapon. Most people let the world aim it for them. That's why they misfire. You have to take control, point it at what you want, and fire daily. Success is built on traits you are not born with: discipline, patience, persistence, grit. You develop them by doing what you don't feel like doing. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop blaming genetics. Stop blaming the past. The pattern is the problem, and patterns don't change without ownership. Every decision you make is either moving you forward or backward. There is no neutral. Most people quit when it starts to hurt, not realizing they were closer than they ever had been. Pain isn't a signal to stop, it's a signal you're growing. You're gonna wake up most days not feeling like it. That's normal. Do it anyway. That's discipline. You don't need more gifts. You don't need more talent. You need to learn how to tell yourself no. No to excuses. No to delay. No to comfort. Train your mind, or it will control you. There is no hack. There is no shortcut. There is only the work. And the question that matters is this: who could you become if you stopped negotiating with yourself?
Let's talk about pain, because pain is where most people fold. Pain is where the crowd disappears. Pain is where excuses get louder. Pain is where people start negotiating with themselves. And pain is also where separation happens. Everybody says they want success. Everybody says they want to win, but very few people are willing to feel what winning requires. Because the truth is, success doesn't feel good on the way up. It feels heavy, it feels lonely, it feels uncomfortable. That's why most people quit, not because they can't do it, but because it hurts more than they expected. They didn't fail because they weren't capable. They failed because they weren't prepared for discomfort. Here's something you need to understand right now. Pain is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Pain is often a sign that you're doing something right. Growth stretches you. Change demands something from you. Progress requires pressure. If you expect the process to be easy, you are already setting yourself up to lose. Most people quit not because the goal is impossible, but because there's nothing emotionally strong enough attached to it. They wrote the goal down, they talked about it, they posted about it, but they didn't attach a reason powerful enough to survive pain. So, the moment it gets hard, they disappear. That's why standards matter. When your standard is low, quitting feels acceptable. When your standard is high, quitting feels embarrassing. Standards decide what you tolerate. Standards decide what you walk away from. Standards decide who you become. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. That's why discipline beats motivation every single time.
Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation says, I feel like it. Discipline says, this is who I am. You need to stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And start asking, is this the standard I live by? Because feelings are unreliable. They change daily, sometimes hourly, but identity doesn't. When you decide who you are, your behavior follows. And here's the hard part nobody wants to hear. Most people are closer than they think, and they quit anyway. They were one habit away, one decision away, one uncomfortable season away. But the pain convinced them to stop. Pain whispers lies. It tells you this isn't worth it, that you're wasting your time, that you're not good enough. And most people believe it. They quit in the middle. They quit in the discomfort. They quit before the breakthrough. You're going to wake up most days not excited. You're going to wake up tired, unmotivated, doubting yourself. That's normal. What's not normal is letting that stop you. Discipline is doing it anyway. You don't wait until you feel strong. You act, and strength follows. You don't wait until you feel confident. You move, and confidence catches up. You don't wait until fear disappears. You act in fear, and fear shrinks. Your mind will try to talk you out of growth. It will remind you of comfort, of safety, of familiarity. But comfort has never built anything great. Comfort creates average, and average is expensive. Average costs you your potential. Average costs you your future. Average costs you the life you could have had. That's the real price. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you're paying with tomorrow. That's why you have to train your mind. Your mind is a muscle. Your emotions are muscles, and like any muscle, they need resistance. If you never push against discomfort, your discipline stays weak. If you always give in to emotion, your willpower disappears. Strong people are not born strong, they're trained. Trained to say no, trained to delay gratification, trained to do the work when nobody is watching. You don't need a dramatic transformation overnight. You need consistency. You need to master the boring, because greatness is built in the mundane. The same workout, the same routine, the same preparation, day after day after day. That's where most people fall off. They want excitement, they want novelty, they want instant results. But the real winners fall in love with repetition. They understand that small actions done daily compound into unstoppable momentum. You don't get credit for what you plan to do. You get results from what you repeatedly execute. And let's be clear, life is not going to cooperate with your plans. Things will break, people will disappoint you, opportunities will fall apart. That's not unfair. That's life. The difference is how you respond. You don't control what happens to you, but you control what you do next. Getting knocked down isn't failure. Staying down is. You're allowed to feel pain. You're allowed to feel frustration. You're allowed to feel tired. You're not allowed to quit. Put a time limit on your emotions, then get back to work. Cry if you need to, rest if you must, but do not surrender. Because the only way you lose is if you stop. Most people think they need more talent, more resources, more opportunities. What they really need is more resolve. Resolve to keep going when it's boring. Resolve to keep going when it's painful. Resolve to keep going when nobody is clapping. That's what builds winners. You don't need perfect conditions. You need relentless execution. Every day you make choices. Those choices are either building momentum or building regret. There is no neutral. You are either becoming stronger or weaker, more disciplined or more distracted, more focused or more comfortable. Choose wisely, because your future self is watching. The version of you 5 years from now will either thank you or resent you. And that decision is being made today, right now, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Ask yourself this: what am I avoiding because it's uncomfortable? That thing, the thing you keep putting off, that's the doorway. That's where growth is hiding. Face it, because the pain you avoid today becomes the regret you live with tomorrow. And regret weighs more than discipline ever will.
At some point, motivation has to die. Not because motivation is bad, but because motivation is weak. Motivation shows up when things feel good. Beast mode shows up when they don't. And if you're serious about becoming uncommon, you don't get there casually. You don't drift into greatness. You don't accidentally dominate. You don't stumble into excellence. You have to decide. Decide that average is no longer acceptable. Decide that comfort is no longer an option. Decide that excuses are no longer allowed. Because winners don't just want to win, they want to separate. They want distance. They want margin. They want dominance. Not because they're arrogant, but because they understand something most people don't. Effort is the great equalizer. All people are created equal. Some just work harder. That's it. There's no mystery. There's no secret sauce. There's no hidden formula. There's just work. And when you truly understand that, something shifts inside you. You stop comparing. You stop complaining. You stop waiting. You start hunting. You wake up earlier. You stay later. You prepare deeper. You study more. Not because someone told you to, but because you're hungry. Hunger changes everything. Hunger sharpens your focus. Hunger silences excuses. Hunger turns obstacles into fuel.
Comfort dulls you. Hunger awakens you. That's why desperation is powerful. When you're desperate enough, you find strength you didn't know you had. You find ideas you didn't know existed. You find energy you didn't think was possible. Desperation forces creativity. Desperation forces commitment. That's why some people rise from nothing and others stay stuck with everything. They wanted it more. Not emotionally, behaviorally. They were willing to sacrifice sleep, entertainment, approval, convenience. They stopped asking, "How do I feel?" and started asking, "What does this require?" That's beast mode. Beast mode isn't yelling. It's not hype. It's not Instagram quotes. Beast mode is silent consistency. It's showing up when no one is watching. It's grinding when nobody cares. It's doing the work when it's boring. It's the willingness to be misunderstood while you're building something most people can't see. Beast mode means you stop negotiating with yourself. No more, just today. No more, I'll do it tomorrow. No more, I deserve a break. You do what needs to be done. And here's where most people get exposed. They say they want to win, but they don't want to outwork anyone. They want success without separation. That doesn't exist. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you'll get what everyone else gets. Average results. Winners think differently. They walk into rooms asking, "How do I become undeniable here?" They don't want to be liked. They want to be respected. They don't want excuses. They want results. They don't want to blend in. They want to stand out. And standing out requires discomfort. You can't dominate while playing it safe. You can't lead while hiding. You can't win while coasting. Winners embrace pressure. Pressure sharpens them. Pressure reveals them. Pressure forces growth. Losers avoid pressure. They make excuses. They wait for perfect timing. But perfect timing is a myth. The only time that matters is now. And here's something else that matters. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you cut corners in small things, you'll cut corners in big things. If you give half effort when it doesn't matter, you'll give half effort when it does. Excellence is a habit. It's built in the smallest moments, when no one is checking. That's why winners obsess over details. They care about preparation. They care about fundamentals. They care about repetition. They don't need motivation. They need standards. Their standard says, I don't do average work. Their standard says, I finish what I start. Their standard says, I show up ready. And when standards are high, excuses disappear, because excuses can't survive discipline. Now let's talk about effort, real effort. Not 70%, not 80%, not I tried. Effort that empties the tank. Effort that says, when I'm done, there's nothing left. Most people think they're giving their best. They're not. They're giving what's comfortable, and comfort masquerades as effort. True effort feels different. It hurts. It drains you. It forces recovery. True effort demands something from you, and that's why so few people give it. Because deep down, they're afraid of finding out who they really are. They're afraid that if they give everything and still fall short, it means something about them. So they hold back. That way, they always have an excuse. But winners don't protect their ego. They put it on the line. They say, I'd rather fail giving everything than live wondering what I could have been. That's courage. That's hunger. That's how separation happens. You don't need permission to go harder. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You need commitment. Commitment to the work. Commitment to the grind. Commitment to excellence. And here's the truth. People will question you. They'll doubt you. They'll misunderstand you. Let them. You're not here to fit in. You're here to build something. And building something great requires isolation at times. It requires saying no to things other people say yes to. It requires discipline when others choose comfort. It requires vision when others settle. That's the cost. And the cost is worth it. Because on the other side of discipline is freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from doubt. Freedom from average. You don't need to be gifted. You need to be relentless. Relentless in preparation. Relentless in execution. Relentless in belief. And belief isn't just what you think. It's what you do daily. So ask yourself, are you hungry or just interested? Interested quits when it gets hard. Hungry finds a way. And if you're hungry enough, average won't be able to keep you.
At some point, effort alone isn't enough. At some point, discipline alone isn't enough. Because life will eventually hit you in a way that doesn't care how hard you work. There will be losses you didn't earn, setbacks you didn't deserve, moments that don't make sense. And when that happens, this is where most people break. Not because they're weak, but because they never developed a reason strong enough to carry them through suffering. That's where purpose comes in. Purpose isn't motivation. Purpose is endurance. Motivation gets you started. Purpose keeps you going when everything falls apart. When your plans collapse. When your progress stalls. When the results don't match the effort. Purpose answers the question, why keep going? If your why is shallow, the first storm will wash it away. If your why is external, money, praise, status, it will collapse the moment those things disappear. Real purpose is internal. It's tied to who you are, who you're becoming, what you refuse to be. Purpose is saying, I will not live a life that disrespects my potential. Purpose is deciding, I am done being the person who quits. And here's the truth nobody likes to talk about. Suffering is unavoidable. You don't get to choose whether you suffer, you only get to choose why you suffer. You can suffer from discipline, or you can suffer from regret. You can suffer from effort, or you can suffer from mediocrity. One builds you, the other breaks you. Pain with purpose becomes power. Pain without purpose becomes bitterness. That's the difference. Everyone gets knocked down. Everyone gets tested. Everyone hits moments where quitting feels reasonable. The question isn't whether you'll fall. The question is whether you'll get back up again and again without losing yourself. Resilience isn't loud. It's quiet. It's getting up when no one is cheering. It's continuing when no one is watching. It's staying disciplined when the outcome is uncertain. That's real strength. You don't become resilient by avoiding hardship. You become resilient by surviving it. And every setback you overcome adds weight to your character. The strongest people you know aren't strong because life was easy. They're strong because life was hard, and they didn't let it destroy them. They adapted, they adjusted, they endured. You don't always need a new plan. Sometimes you need more patience. Sometimes you need to stay in the fight longer than feels comfortable. Most breakthroughs are delayed. Not denied, delayed. And most people quit right before the delay ends. They misinterpret silence as failure. They mistake slow progress for no progress. But growth often happens quietly, under the surface, in the unseen, in the uncomfortable. Just because you can't see results yet doesn't mean the work isn't working. Roots grow before trees do, and deep roots take time. If you rush the process, you weaken the foundation. You don't need to rush, you need to remain. Remain consistent, remain disciplined, remain committed. Even when it's boring, even when it's painful, even when it's lonely, especially then. Loneliness is part of growth. When you choose a different path, you separate from the crowd, and the crowd doesn't understand discipline. They don't understand sacrifice. They don't understand obsession. They'll call you extreme. They'll call you obsessed. They'll call you crazy. Let them. Every person who ever did something meaningful was misunderstood on the way there. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become something greater. And becoming greater requires enduring seasons that don't make sense. You're going to have moments where you question everything. Your ability, your decision, your direction. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. Doubt is part of the process. The difference is what you do with it. Do you let doubt stop you, or do you let it sharpen you? Doubt can either paralyze you or push you to prepare more. Fear can either freeze you or force you to rise. Pain can either break you or build you. The choice is always yours. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be courageous. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of fear. And every time you act anyway, you become stronger. Your past doesn't disqualify you. Your mistakes don't define you. Your failures don't finish you. What defines you is how you respond. Do you learn or do you repeat? Do you adjust or do you quit? Do you grow or do you stay the same? Life will keep testing the lesson until you learn it. You can't outrun accountability. At some point, you either face yourself or you keep suffering the consequences. Taking responsibility is painful, but avoiding it is more painful. Ownership is freedom. The moment you stop blaming, you regain control, and control is power. You don't need to win every day.
You need to show up every day. You don't need perfect weeks. You need consistent ones. Progress is built on imperfect action. Small wins matter. Daily discipline matters, even when the results feel invisible, especially then. Because invisible work creates visible outcomes. The version of you that survives this season will be unrecognizable to the version that entered it. Stronger, calmer, sharper, but only if you stay, only if you endure, only if you refuse to quit on yourself. Because quitting doesn't end the pain, it transfers it. It hands it to your future self. And your future self deserves better. So keep going, not because it's easy, not because it's guaranteed, because you decided you're not done yet.
At the end of the day, this isn't about goals. It's about identity. Goals can change, circumstances can change, plans can fall apart, but identity stays. You don't rise to the level of what you want, you fall to the level of who you are. And who you are is revealed by what you do when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when quitting feels reasonable. That's the real test. The moment nobody's forcing you, the moment nobody's checking, the moment the responsibility is yours, that's where character shows up. Most people want a better life without becoming a better person. They want the reward without the responsibility. But life doesn't work like that. Every level demands a version of you that can handle it. If you don't build the person, you won't keep the outcome. That's why execution matters more than intention. Intentions don't build confidence. Execution does. Intentions don't change identity. Repeated action does. Every time you act in alignment with discipline, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you quit, you cast a vote for the person you're staying. You are always becoming something. There is no pause button. You're either building momentum or building excuses, and momentum is powerful. Small wins stack, confidence grows, belief solidifies, but only if you keep executing. Execution is simple, not easy. It's waking up and doing the work before you feel ready. It's showing up prepared even when you're tired. It's choosing effort when comfort is tempting. Over and over. Execution doesn't ask for motivation. It demands commitment. And commitment is a decision you make before emotions get involved. You decide in advance who you are and what you do. I'm someone who finishes. I'm someone who trains. I'm someone who shows up. When identity is clear, decisions are easy. You don't negotiate with yourself about things that define you. You don't debate whether to brush your teeth, you just do it. That's the level discipline must reach. Automatic, non-negotiable, part of who you are. And when discipline becomes identity, average no longer fits you. You start to feel uncomfortable with excuses. You start to feel restless with half effort. You start to feel allergic to wasted potential. That's growth. That's evolution. And yes, this path is lonely at times, because when you stop making excuses, you stop relating to people who live by them. When you raise your standards, you outgrow certain environments. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You don't owe everyone access to you. You owe yourself honesty. Honesty about your effort. Honesty about your habits. Honesty about your discipline. Because deep down, you already know. You know where you've been cutting corners. You know where you've been settling. You know what you've been avoiding. And the moment you stop lying to yourself, everything changes. The weight lifts, the direction sharpens, the excuses lose power. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I don't try? Regret is heavier than effort, always. One day, this season will be over.
and you'll look back at this version of yourself. The question is, will you be proud? Proud that you didn't quit? Proud that you stayed disciplined? Proud that you became stronger instead of bitter? Or will you wish you had pushed harder when it mattered? That answer is being written right now, not in the big moments, in the small ones, in how you choose to do today, in how you handle discomfort, in whether you execute or explain. Because explanation is the language of average, execution is the language of winners. You don't need to announce your plans. You don't need to convince anyone. You need to work silently, relentlessly, consistently. Let results speak. Let discipline speak. Let your life become the proof. This isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. You will stumble. You will struggle. You will doubt yourself. And you will get back up again and again and again. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, not genetics. Refusal to quit. So draw the line. Decide who you are and live like it. No more waiting. No more negotiating. No more living half in. You don't need a new year. You don't need a new plan. You need a new standard. And once that standard is set, everything else aligns. This is you versus you. Every day, every decision, every moment, choose wisely. Because the version of you who refuses to live average is already inside you. It's time to act like it.